Hello, Willowdale and beyond. Welcome to Meet Your Neighbor, NeighborLink North York's weekly interview series. Each episode, we introduce you to a new neighbor in the spirit of building a more connected community. I hope you've had a great start to your week. I'm Sebastian Biasucci, and I'm very excited for you to meet our guest tonight, Master Gardener Gail Bebee. Gail has served as the president of the Bayview Village Association, her local residents association, and is currently a member of the Environment Committee. Gail has also served as president of the North York Garden Club, a volunteer organization that promotes the love of gardening and is open to all. We're so glad she stopped by. Before we meet Gail, allow me to introduce your host, Lily Chang.
Hello, good evening, Willowdale. So happy that you can join me this evening. I'm very excited to dive into this chat. But before I do, I just want to give a plug to our Meet Your Neighbor Week, which is happening June 18th to 25th. It's a wonderful week where you get to invite your immediate neighbors to a meetup. It could be on your driveway or in a local park. Last year, I ended up with a potluck barbecue on my driveway, and it was such a great time. I already put it out to my neighbors, and we are going to have another one. Here at NeighborLink, we really believe that life is better when you know your neighbors. So all you have to do to sign up is go to our website, and then we'll give you some tips, tricks, and ideas. You could reach out to your neighbors. It doesn't have to be your whole street or floor, condo floor. It could simply be 2 or 3 that you already know. But I say the more the merrier. So please join us for Meet Your Neighbor Week, and it will end with a huge community-wide yard sale. Yes, who doesn't like shopping? So on June 25th, you could shop your way across Willowdale, and of course, you'll have to hit up our spring garden market. So if you live in a condo and you don't have a driveway and you really have some stuff, and who doesn't have stuff to get rid of, sign up and you could have a booth at our spring garden market, or simply sell on your driveway, and we'll include you in our Willowdale wide map. Last year, our yard sale map garnered 15,000 views. So there were a lot of interested shoppers. Hopefully you'll join us for a wonderful day to meet your neighbors and shop your neighbors. Now, without further ado, I'm so excited about tonight's interview because I am, I don't know if there's a term for it, a pandemic gardener. I had never, planned a garden, had never, imagined like what I could plant. And suddenly the pandemic hit, and, I had this front yard, and I thought, who needs a front yard? Who wants grass? I don't need grass. So I dug it up, put down a part of it is veggies, a part of it is perennials, and lots of Google searches have resulted in what I have, but I've never gotten to chat with a master gardener. So I am so excited because I don't even know how one gets the certification to be a master gardener, but we're going to find out. So let us give a warm welcome to Gail Bebee. Hi, Gail.
Hi, Lily. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing some time with us. We're so excited, and we would like to know, what does it take to be a master gardener? Is it 30 years of experience? Is it,
No. Anybody can train up to be a master gardener. There's an application process. There's a website, Toronto Master Gardeners website. You apply, and there's an interview process. And if you're accepted, then you take courses. There's a program at Guelph and also one at Dalhousie. I think there's 3 or 4 courses. And then when you complete those and you've been a member for 2 years, then you get to graduate and then become a master gardener. It's a totally volunteer organization, and it's really a mission is to help people garden better. We do we have to volunteer for at least 30 hours a year doing things like presentations. Yesterday, I was helping out answer questions at the Cabbagetown garden tour, Cabbagetown Preservation Association garden tour. So that each garden had a master gardener, so people could ask questions when they were looking at the garden and at the plants in the garden. Next Saturday is Toronto Botanical Gardens Through the Garden Gate garden tour. It's over in the Witchwood part of town near the Witchwood Barns. It's an annual fundraiser for the botanical garden. And again, each garden will have a master gardener or 2 to answer questions when people come by. And then there's presentations. Actually, this has been a busy day for me. I did a presentation to Toronto Public Library on midsummer vegetable gardening. It is a Zoom or crowdcast today. And then one of the really neat features of Toronto Master Gardeners is the Ask a Master Gardener online feature at our website. If you've got a question and you're gardening in Toronto, you can type it in, and we'll answer it and send you back an answer. And there's also a telephone hotline if you prefer to talk with someone rather than email it. And so we take turns to answer these questions. So I'm doing that next week. I try to do it about once a month, and whatever questions come in, you answer them.
That is so informative because, when we're gardening, we often encounter new bugs, new challenges. Yeah. I know I do. So now I know there's a place that I can go instead of just doing random Google searches.
Well, yeah, another thing you can do is join the North York Garden Club, which is in the Willowdale area. As Sebastian said, its mission is to promote the love of gardening to members and to the public through meetings, guest speakers, flower shows, plant sales, and community outreach activities. So I wanted to invite the people who are listening tonight to our next meeting and come and check us out with any obligation to join, but we hope you will. We meet at Willowdale Presbyterian Church at 38 Ellerslie Avenue. It's right beside the police building on Ellerslie. So our next meeting is Monday, June the 27th. We meet at 7:30. And the speaker will be, guess what, another Master Gardener, but from the Etobicoke Master Gardeners group. His name is Jim Graham, and he will be talking about urban gardening. So he'll be talking about urban microclimates and how to create a healthy ecosystem, how to protect your land and water, techniques for urban gardening, plant selection, tips for growing your own food, and a little bit about wildlife in the garden. So for the first time since before COVID, we are having a flower show, and the theme is the Dragon Boat Festival. This is really exciting. So it's been so long since we've had real in-person meetings. So all members, including beginners, are invited to participate in the flower show. There's a design section where you can design floral displays following the theme Dragon Boat Festival. And then there's also the cultural section where you actually bring in flowers and fruits and vegetables from your garden. And we have an Ontario Horticultural Association judge come in and judge them. And hey, you could get a first, second, or third place ribbon or honorable mention.
Wow, that would be a fun goal to set for oneself, wouldn't it?
Yes.
That is great to know, and such a wonderful way to connect with community. You know, we're all about building a connected community, and so you get to meet fellow gardeners in the community and learn more. And I love that subject, urban gardening, because that's
Well,
what
that's
we're
what
all
we
doing.
do, yeah, and it's certainly different than growing things out in a farmer's field.
Yes.
There's a lot of people in condos now in Toronto. So one of the big things is container gardening uh,
Yeah.
for urbanites, and that's different again than gardening in a plot. It can be a little more challenging. You have to pay attention to the watering and the sun a little bit more.
You know, before we started live streaming, you mentioned something to me that I thought was very interesting. I never heard it, that beans actually, planting beans can replenish, was it nitrogen
Nitrogen.
in
Yeah,
your
yeah.
soil?
There's a symbiotic relationship between the roots of the beans and some microbes, and so it generates nitrogen that's in a usable form for plants.
Hmm.
So they're good to plant to replenish the soil, and you want to
So,
do a little bit of crop rotation, so you could plant the beans one year and then put something else in there the next year, tomatoes or whatever.
that's a great tip. I had never heard of that, and I think it's a little late for some people who've already planted, but if you
Oh,
haven't
no, 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 it's
no?
not. You can have more than one crop. That was really what I was talking about today. Probably up until the end of July, you could plant. If you planted radishes in early April, which is known as a cool season vegetable, you can plant those seeds right in the ground as soon as the soil is workable. And they days to maturity 30, 40 days. So you've got your radishes out. Even if you planted them in mid-April, they're done by the end of May, and you can put another crop in. Lettuce, probably just leaf lettuce. You can do that in maybe 40 maturity days to maturity. Some of it's 45, 50 days. So you can probably plant stuff. Well, you can even plant stuff into August, but certainly until the end of July.
Do you find that this year the weather has been delayed? Like that, you know, the tulips didn't open until May, which was strange. So is the whole calendar delayed now, or do you think
Uh,
it's going to catch up?
well, in fact, the my bridal wreath spirea started to flower earlier than June. Well, traditionally it was June. Same with the lilacs, but the lilacs have been all in full tilt, and the bridal wreath spirea. I'm finding that some of the vegetables are a bit slow off the mark, but in general, the climate is warming up, and you can see that in terms of the length of your growing season. And um, the frost date is a little bit later, and maybe the first frost date, and then the last frost date in the spring is later. So you as a gardener, you want to know when the frost date is, because there are what are known as warm season vegetables that for the most part they're the ones that produce those nice big fruits, like tomatoes and peppers and squashes and beans, and they don't like frost at all. So you only really want to put those out in the ground after the last frost date, which is in Toronto now it's around May the 10th. But that can be iffy, so you can start looking at the weather forecast at that time, and if it looks okay, then you can put out your warm season vegetables. But um, usually I'd like to wait about a week or so after the 10th, just to be on the safe side. Otherwise, you can cover them up if you get a frost. You just even using sheets of plastic, and you
Mm.
put them out at night, covered over at night. Oh, I mean, I had some pots of flowers I had already planted, and we had that big snowstorm at the end of April, and so I had ran out with all these hunks of plastic, and I was covering over these pots. So uh, I guess they sort of survive, but the geraniums don't seem to be flowering too well. So I think they may have gotten damaged somehow.
Hmm. So even as a master gardener, you still, get affected by the weather.
Well, you just know how to respond to it better than the average person.
Right,
Uh,
right.
uh, One of the take-home messages for folks, I think, as far as gardening goes, is right place, right plant, right place. So, uh, if you're growing vegetables in particular, usually you got to have a nice sunny area. At least we always say 6 hours plus of sun for anything that produces a big fruit. So stuff like lettuce, you can probably get away with maybe 4 hours, 3, 4 hours, just the leafy things. But any vegetable with a serious fruit, eggplants, that kind of thing, lots of sun. So if you don't have lots of sun, then find something else to plant that fits that niche of the amount of sun you have.
Well, that's why I have planted my vegetable garden in my front yard
Yes.
because my front yard gets more sun than my backyard.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Google was helping you out quite well,
Yeah.
or Professor Google.
Well, I did get a little help from, I don't know if he's a master gardener, but he is very well known and established, Steve Biggs.
Oh,
Steve,
yes,
yeah,
yes. The lemon tree and fig tree guy.
that's right. That's right. He, when I first started during the first lockdown, he came over and just kind of gave me an idea of what I could plant and how I could space it out. And
Oh,
I
good.
didn't get his input the second year and I overcrowded everything. So, you know,
Well, hey, I would tell people to read the package, the seed package, or the tag that comes with the plant, because it's got usually has a lot of very useful information. It'll say sun, and it will usually say days to maturity, and often they'll tell you the spacing as well. And certainly for the seed packs, the spacing is good, and I sometimes I push the spacing because I haven't got a big big garden, and there's a species of gardening called square foot gardening, where you divide your garden into square spaces, and you try to maximize the production within each square. And that means generally growing more than your traditionally what they tell you on the seed pack.
does that mean you'd have to double up your fertilizer if you're going to concentrate that much growing?
Uh, well, you don't want to double it up, but you do have to keep adding compost and fertilizer. Well, especially vegetables, so you want to feed them periodically with some kind of basic or organic fertilizer, like fish emulsion, which I'm trying this year for the first time. Just see what
Fish
it's like. I
emulsion.
found the fish emulsion that is not supposed to be stinky. So
Oh.
we'll see how it goes. And then um, the one concern I have is whether it attracts even more critters. So,
Yeah, about those critters. So I have a question, if it's
yes.
okay. Last summer, I grew corn. I was so excited. It was
I
beautiful.
already know what you're going to tell me. The
I ate,
raccoons
I
got
got
it,
to eat
right?
four of the corn. One day I broke them off. My kids, we all were so excited. We finished it. The next day, the rest of the corn was gone. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my son was growing corn at his place, and he was just waiting. It was almost ready. And then guess what? The raccoons were just waiting for it to be ready. I saw down in the beaches somebody who had a vegetable garden that was, honest to God, it was in a cage with sides and a roof and a door to keep the raccoons out. So Unfortunately, there's really not many ways to control these creatures other than physical barriers. That's my experience with all of these squirrels and rabbits and all those chipmunks, whatever. Physical barriers. That's
Oh,
all those spray on liquids. Well, maybe they work for a bit, but as soon as it rains, they're they're not working anymore. And I'm not necessarily convinced they do work. So,
right, right. Well, I tried to put a net around the corn, but they somehow just got in. And
yes.
I have never had fresh corn off the stalk before. And you
Wow.
don't even have to cook it. It's so sweet. And I just can't bear to try it again because it was too heartbreaking.
Well, some people say just grow enough for yourself and for the animals. But the thing is, some of those animals are really ravenous, and they just keep on coming back, and you
Yeah.
get nothing. So,
That's right. So tell me, how did you land into gardening? What was that spark for you?
well, my mother was a gardener. I think that's often the story. So she always had a garden, and I guess she taught me how to garden. And when I was growing up in Ottawa, there was a local horticultural society, the City View Horticultural Society, and they had a junior gardener group. So I joined that, and I actually exhibited stuff I'd grown in my garden, and I entered my garden contest. And hey, I even won first prize one year, and I still have that trophy somewhere. So that's how I got into it. And then, well, I did. Plant physiology and biology university, and then I went and worked at the Department of Agriculture a bit before I went to grad school. And so I was always kind of interested in plants. And then so just once you get started and you say, oh, what can I do? So we've been in our house for quite a while, over 30 years. So we started off with a basic plan that we had Sheridan Nurseries do, and then I got into it, and now we have no grass in the backyard. It's just all paths and trees and flowers and shrubs, and it's a nice little oasis.
Oh, that sounds so beautiful.
Yeah, we love it.
What is it about gardening that is magical to you?
Magical. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say magical, but why do I enjoy it? Because it's you can go out there and be outside, enjoy the fresh air, get some exercise, and really forget about all the crap that's going on in the world, and just focus on making things grow,
Mm,
harvesting things. And yeah, so I find it very relaxing, and I guess that's why I do it.
yeah, I think for me that it was really meditational during the lockdowns
Yeah.
and the pressure of
Mm.
homeschooling.
Oh,
Just,
homeschooling. Oh,
well,
how many kids were
no, I
did you?
have two, but I don't homeschool, but they were
But they were
homeschooling.
home
Yeah,
anyways.
yeah. And when I just put my hands in the earth and everything just disappeared, life kind of slowed down, and it draws you, it's meditational, I think, because
Yes.
when you're
Yeah.
pulling out a weed, you're not thinking about anything else except trying to get the root
Getting
of
all those roots.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I wanted to just mention something else that I'm working on with the through the Baby Village Association, and that's our campaign to ban gas-powered leaf blowers. They are really more than a nuisance. They're a real health hazard. Besides the noise, there's the gas powered ones release carcinogens in the exhaust and unburned fuel. And not only the operator, but people in the area breathe that stuff in. And also, the jets from those leaf blowers create all sorts of dust, and fine particulate that you inhale, and that can hang around for a week. So, and if you're in the garden after they come by, well, guess what? You're breathing that in. From an environmental point of view, those leaf blowers, they are not good for your garden because all those jets go in there and they destroy pollinators. Who a lot of people don't really realize that our native pollinators, a lot of them live in the ground and on twigs and little cavities at low levels. So when those leaf blowers go by and blow everything everywhere, they're destroying pollinators. Besides getting rid of your lovely fertile soil, blowing it off somewhere else. So and then the grass clippings go down the storm sewer into our local rivers and create more biological oxygen demand, and so your rivers start to die. So we're trying to get the city of Toronto to implement a ban, and there was some discussion about it, but they haven't made any decisions. So we have there's a petition that Councillor Shelley Carroll set up because we convinced her that the city needed to do something. And it's got some 7,000 signatures on it, and I can actually I'll follow up by sending you the link for that. And it's essentially we think that leaf blowers, glass-powered leaf blowers, should be banned. And I think that the city, one of the committees will be making a decision on whether to put in some more stringent noise bylaws in the near future. The meeting was supposed to be May 30th, but it got postponed, and we're not sure when it is. So keep on the pressure. Send those letters into your counselor. I guess it's John Filion over in your area. It's Shelley Carroll in our area. And we even have a template letter that people can send into their counselor, telling them that it's an issue. What we found is that the city said, well, it isn't an issue because we didn't get complaints. Well, I think in most cases, people didn't realize that they needed to complain in order for the city to do anything. So that's our latest campaign, is to get people to send those complaints in. So last week, when not one but two garden services right beside me, behind and beside, came in with their 3 gas-powered leaf blower packs. I downloaded a sound level app, and I went to the edge of the property, and it was 89 decibels, which is really very noisy. Certainly on a time-weighted average, that's much higher than it should be for certainly worker exposure. So those guys who are using those all the time, they really need to wear hearing protection. Otherwise, they're going to have hearing loss. And not to mention the overexposure to carcinogens and vapors and fine particulates that get into their lungs. So the alternative is battery-powered leaf blowers, which are much quieter, and you don't have any of those emissions problems. You still have the killing the pollinators issue and destroying your topsoil. So we really recommend that leaf blower use be restricted to the fall leaf cleanup season. And that's what they were supposed to be used for. We have seen them used for everything from snow removal to construction cleanup to just general parking lot cleanup. And there's all sorts of unnecessary leaf blowing or leaf blower use going on. They're not even blowing leaves. They're blowing stone dust and drywall dust and God knows what else is in the dust. I mean, there's animal feces and microbes and whatever. It's really not good for your health. What was the other thing I wanted to say? I But I guess those are.
Wow. I think a lot of people had no idea of the many negative effects that you've described. And I think on my street, I haven't heard any gas-powered leaf blowers, so
You're lucky. Well,
maybe I'm lucky. I don't know.
yeah. Well, do people actually do their own lawns in your neighborhood? Because we're in our neighborhood, there are a lot of lawn care services, and the lawn care services, some of them are worse than others. They love leaf blowers.
Hmm.
They think that it makes their work faster, but from my observation, a lot of it is unnecessary work that
Mm-hmm.
that they don't really need to blow everything everywhere, and leave the grass clippings on the lawn where they can decompose and nourish the lawn, so you don't have to add so much fertilizer.
So I have a question about that. Like,
Yes.
when I pull weeds, can I
Yes.
just leave them on the floor, or do I have to remove them?
You mean in your lawn?
Or no, not my lawn, my garden.
Oh, your garden. Well, it depends on what the weed is. Do you have a compost heap?
I don't.
Oh, okay. So you
Hmm.
put them in your
Green bag, like the leaf.
the green box that go for the yard waste pickup?
Right.
Yeah.
The leaf bag.
Yeah. That's probably an acceptable thing to do. But there is a school of gardening that just prune and drop, dig and drop. But the weeds are fairly tenacious. If you just pull it out and leave it on the ground, they're liable to start growing again. So you you really have to move them somewhere else.
Right. So before we wrap up, we usually always do something called the Willowdale Rapid Fire Round, because
Okay.
we'd love to hear about your experience of our community. So the first question is, what is your favorite spot to hang out in Willowdale?
Well, that's pretty easy. It's the ravines, the Newtonbrook Park ravine, and then the Newtonbrook Creek ravine that goes down to the Dawn Trail.
Beautiful spot. And what
Yes.
is your favorite place to eat?
Uh, well, gee, we've been eating at home an awful lot. We like tabbouleh in Baby Village. That's for really local. That we like that.
Hmm. What do you think sets this community apart from other neighborhoods?
Um, well, it's a well-established community, and we have large properties. So there's lots of people. Well, gardeners, lots of property for gardeners if you're interested. I think the schools are good, and that's another reason that people move in there. And there's some in Baby Village. We have a fairly strong residents association, the Baby Village Association, and that really builds community. They have events. We're having a tree giveaway on. All the trees are already taken. 500 trees they've ordered. They're all taken on,
Wow.
I think it's June the 18th. As part of it, there's going to be a plant swap. You bring a plant and you take a plant. I'm running the plant swap. And also, I'm standing there with my master gardener named Tagon, and I will answer questions. So if you're interested in the plant swap, the 18th is a Saturday, right? Yeah, that's when it's 18th. We have details on the website because um, there's a certain amount of plant preparation required because there's this invasive species called jumping worms that really wreck the soil so that other stuff doesn't grow. So we're trying to minimize the spread of those guys. So generally, we want people to dig the plant out, wash the roots off, and then put them in potting mix. And so you buy some potting mix, quality one, not the no name variety, and use that, and then bring it in. So that way, hopefully, it'd be the little larva of the jumping worms, which you can't see at this time of year. You want to get rid of those and leave them at your place if they're there.
Oh my goodness. I haven't
Uh,
even heard.
Oh,
You
this
know,
is a relatively new phenomenon. It's like a lot of other things. It's been kind of arriving gradually, and it's a real issue in the States, I think in Massachusetts. So they eat they live in the top of this near the top of the soil, and they just totally consume all the leaf litter.
oh,
So it totally changes the ecology, and then the things that used to survive in the leaf litter, well, they're not there anymore because there's hardly any leaf litter for them to live in. So you get a real change in the flora and the fauna in areas where these guys have shown up.
wow. I thought the moths were already
Oh,
really.
oh, the spongy moth. Then there's the box tree moth. I was part of a study over the last 2 years of the box tree moth was for boxwood shrubs. Uh, it's another invasive species, and they're coming in. Well, they're here now, but 2 years ago they were coming in from the States. 2 years ago, all season, I got 3 of these moths in my trap. Last year, the trap was so full, I even had trouble counting them. It was because I have a lot of boxwoods, so they knew they found them. So,
Actually, that is a question I had. So I have lilies growing in my garden, and suddenly I had these red lily beetles. And I
oh, these
didn't,
are Asiatic lilies that you
yeah,
have.
I got
They're
these
not
bulbs
daily.
from Costco, and when
Okay.
they arrived, they were just bulbs. So
Yeah.
I don't know how these bugs found me.
Oh, they.
They laid an egg storm and ate half the leaves, but I just thought, how did these red beetles find me?
Well, they can sense the lilies, and well, the best thing you do with those things is get a dish of soapy water and just hand pick them. At least they show up. Well, it's the
There's
same with the Japanese beetles, which they eat everything in sight, especially roses, but grape leaves, whatever. The best way to get rid of them is pick them off, soap and water.
squish
That's
them.
my daily routine, and going out and seeing if I can help my roses survive another year by picking off those Japanese beetles every morning.
Oh, so it's comforting to know even a master gardener has to pick off their beetles.
Well, I don't. They don't read the sign that says "Master Gardener lives here. Go away." So
Because yeah, last year I was picking off cucumber beetles every morning because they were
yeah,
destroying my cucumber plants. So
yeah.
just seems like an unending beetle war.
Oh well, there's always some pest or disease that you need to worry about.
Yes, that part of gardening has not brought me joy.
Now think of it as a challenge.
Right, right. What's one thing that you would love to see more of when you think of Willowdale? What do you think this community needs?
More of. Uh, hmm. Good question. I know what we need less of, and that's condos.
I thought you were going to say gas leaf blower.
No, well, that too, but I think in the big scheme of things, the rapid development of condos, especially along Shepherd Avenue, has really gotten out of hand. Well, in fact, the city had approved a bunch of condos, I think, over about around Leslie and Shepherd, and then somebody in the staff discovered they did not have enough sewer and water capacity to service these condos that were already approved and under construction.
Hmm.
So they had to do some kind of deal with the developer, and now there's this big, huge project to try to improve the sewage capacity down there. Yeah, so less of that, and I guess more of people walking around and less use of cars. I think would be good. If in terms of promoting the neighborhood, we my husband and I are known in the neighborhood as the walkers, because we're out there walking every day, pretty much all over the neighborhood, and walk down to the mall if we need to buy something. It's good exercise, fresh air, and it's good for the environment because you're not driving a car, and which gives off more emissions that contribute to air pollution, smog, global warming, climate change, all those things.
Mm-hmm. And what is a hidden gem that you have found that you wouldn't mind sharing with
A
us?
hidden gem. Well, I thought about that, and I thought, well, I like my back garden. It's a hidden gem, and I just sit out there. We have dinner out there on the patio every evening, and I sit and look. We have a bird bath, and sit and watch the birds come by. And it's interesting that over the last year, I've seen a lot more different species come to drink at the bird bath. Usually it's just the robins show up and splash the water all over everywhere. But yesterday I saw a woodpecker for the first time stop for a drink. And earlier this week, yeah, goldfinches and cardinals. Like I'm not sure what that means. Like, is the water no good down by the river anymore?
Have you seen any blue jays?
Oh yeah, well, certainly down in the ravine, there's lots of blue jays, and we have some conifers near us, and just a few doors up, so they like to hang out there. So
One of our viewers is asking for your address now, so like a hidden gem, but it's very hidden. And what is your most memorable Willowdale moment?
Well, when we had the 50th anniversary of the Bayview Village Association, we were trying to figure out what to do for celebration, and we actually had an event in Bayview Village Park, and there was the Earl Haig Orchestra? Kids came to play, and we had fireworks, and and the rain sort of showed up, but it left, and we were able to have the fireworks. So that was a really memorable night right in the neighborhood. And then I guess the other, if you're really thinking something else that really sticks in your mind is it was the great blackout in 2003, I think, when well, we got to stay home from work for a day, and it was great because guess what I was doing? It was in the summer. I was out there in my garden. I was quite happy. Didn't miss the electricity being off at all during the day.
Mm. Well, thank you so much, Gail, for spending time with us. It's been very interesting to hear about your many contributions to the community, from the Neighborhood Association to the North York Garden Club, as well as all the times that you're offering wonderful free advice to fellow gardeners. And so we look forward to hearing more from you through the North York Garden Club. And, I think what you're describing too is how beautiful life is when you're engaged in your neighborhood association. And in Willowdale, there are pockets of Willowdale that don't have a neighborhood association, or some that, have not been able to get the participation of as many people as they would like. Usually it's like there's a negative thing happening, like the threat of a new condo, and that
Yes.
really galvanizes the
Yeah.
neighborhood
Yes.
association. But I think the raison d'etre for a neighborhood association should not be just about fighting the bad guys.
Well, it should be building community as well. Well, the Bayview Village Association has been around since I think 1956. So they've got quite a storied history, and certainly I've seen lots of changes over the years. So we do have a website, bayviewvillage.org, and that shows all the goings on. So I think next week, or is it Wednesday? Oh, Wednesday is the annual general meeting in June, so it's a Zoom thing. And like everybody else, they morphed to Zoom because they had to. But I'm hoping I think it's still Zoom. Yeah, hoping that they'll go back to live.
Well, at least the garden club is meeting live, right?
Yes, it's so exciting to have a flower show and
Yeah.
an actual meeting. It's
Well, we
great.
look forward to promoting it. If you
Yeah,
send the dates over to Sebastian, we'll put it in our
sure.
newsletter. And we would love for more people to participate in the garden club, the flower show, and in their local neighborhood association. It resonates with all of our core values that, life is better when you know your neighbors.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Gail, for your
Okay.
time.
Hey, it
Yeah.
was fun. I love talking about gardening.
Yeah. I mean, I could ask every question that I have, and that could be a whole show unto itself. I did actually, is there such a thing as a garden doctor? Because I really think at some point I would like to invite a master gardener to look at my garden and to kind of tell me, should I, you know, dig this up? This should be moved. This is too crowded.
Well, we don't have that kind of service. It sounds to me as if you want some kind of garden designer.
Well, because I already have things in place, so I don't
Yeah,
really want a massive redesign. I just need tweaking, and a
yeah,
direction of how to
yeah,
tweak it. Like, so I know my irises are too crowded, so not all of them flowered this year. And
yeah.
then someone said, "Oh, I need to split them." So,
Yeah, in fact, perennials in general need to be split every certain number of years. And in fact, somewhere I have a, a list of perennials and a suggestion about how often you should split them.
yeah, so
So if I can find it, I'll send it to you.
that's a new skill because I only learned how to plant. I never
Wow.
learned how to split.
Well, if you have hostas, boy, they usually grow like crazy, and then eventually they hollow out in the middle. So you definitely have to dig them up and
Yeah,
then
this year
split
there
them.
were more shoots than I planted one at a time. Again, I
Yeah,
bought bulbs from Costco because they were inexpensive.
yeah,
And then this year they multiplied.
yeah.
But I asked somewhere on some random Facebook group and they said, "Oh, leave it another year and then you can split." Because I just planted them last year.
Oh yeah, I would usually live in several years. So you don't want to stress the plant too much, and you want to
Mhm.
have two decent sized pieces afterwards, and then you can plant. And then you have two. Now I have a Japanese painted fern. I started with one, and now I got about 12. I mean,
Wow.
I've had it a long time, and so every few years, it just sends out babies, so you dig them up and put them somewhere else. Oh, I love Japanese painted ferns. They're just gorgeous, and
Wow. That's a beautiful name even.
yeah, yeah. You if you don't have any, so take a look. You'll like them too.
Japanese painted
Painted fern.
fern.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up. Well, thank you for your time, Gail. I will have
Okay.
to find out your next hotline hour, and I will make sure I call call in.
I know.
Okay.
I was about to say this is like therapy. It's like, oh, your session is up.
I
Like we'll
know.
pick this up. We'll pick this up next
No,
week.
Sebastian, don't stop.
We can't afford you, Gail. We have to let you go. Thank you so much for your
Okay.
expertise. That was wonderful. It was
Yeah.
so nice to hear you talk so
Well,
passionately
thanks for
about
having
this
me.
subject. No, it was our pleasure. And for everyone who tuned in, thank you. You can learn more about the North York Garden Club at northyorkgardenclub.ca. Definitely get involved. And if you'd like to check out the rest of our amazing interviews, you can listen to the Meet Your Neighbor podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We've launched about 10 episodes, and Gail's will be coming out shortly as well. So look out for that. You can listen while you garden. Which is really exciting. So we will be back next week with another fantastic guest, and we will see you then, same time, same place, new neighbor. Good night, Willowdale. Good night, Gail. Good night, Lily. Have a wonderful week.
Good night.